Good morning, everyone. Today we'll do the short story titled Mrs. Datta Writes a Letter. This is a short story by Chitra Divakurani Banerjee, and this short story was first published in 1998. Uh, I think you have learned a poem by Chitra Banerjee Divakaruni last year. So, when I taught you that poem, I explained to you about Divakaruni's journey from India to the US and how she is considered as a diasporic writer. She has published short stories as well as novels, and this particular story that has been prescribed to you, Mrs. Datta Writes a Letter, is from her short story collection titled The Unknown Errors of Our Life. Of our lives, I think, yeah, the unknown errors of our lives. So, as I told you earlier, she is an Indian who went to the United States, and like most of her works or most of her stories and novels, this particular story is also one that speaks about the culture shock that is faced by this woman named Mrs. Datta, who immigrates to America, right? So here we see Mrs. Datta, a widow, and she is pressurized by her relatives who live in Kolkata to go and live with her son in San Francisco in USA. So this particular area, the San Francisco Bay Area, where Mrs. Datta's son and daughter-in-law and grandchildren live, is seen particularly throughout this no, in this story, and also throughout most of her works and most of Chitra Banerjee Divakaruni's work. The San Francisco Bay Area, that is one setting that she repeatedly uses in most of her works. And in this story, we see how Mrs. Datta tries to answer her friend, that is, her friend is Mrs. Basu in Kolkata. Mrs. Basu writes a letter to her asking her whether she is happy in America. And Mrs. Datta does not know how to respond to that. So she keeps the response letter aside. Because when we read the story, we find that she's actually a little bit afraid to explore how she really feels, because she wants to be very loyal to her family. She wants to be loyal to her son, to her daughter-in-law,
Excuse me, ma'am.
does not want to betray them to others. But she
Ma'am.
goes through a series of cultural conflicts, right? And she goes through a lot of struggles, and finally she gains the strength. Towards the end of the story, we see that she gains the strength to be really honest with herself and to be honest about herself, about her unhappiness, right? So this particular story, which was published in 1998, is very important because it was during that period that India was quite visible in the international arena for cultural conflict among its religious groups, its nuclear weapons test, and also the border dispute with Pakistan, right? So that is why this story is quite important, because India was kind of very, it was, India was a country that was looked upon by many countries across the world during that particular time. Now, as I told you earlier, Divakaruni was born in Kolkata in India. She was born into a very traditional middle class Indian family, and she lived in many cities of India. She attended the University of Kolkata, where she did her BA in English. And her family, like all Indian families desired, wanted her to get married after she finished her education, and they wanted her to raise a family. But when she was 19, after her graduation, she went to the United States because she wanted to do her PG there. So she did her master's in English literature from the Wright State University in Ohio, Dayton, right? And she married a person named Murthy Divakaruni, and it was not a very traditional arranged marriage, right? And later on, she went on to do her PhD in California, University of California, and at Berkeley, and she finished her PhD there. And it was during her stint at Berkeley that she decided to be a volunteer at a women's center. And there she encountered a lot of women who faced abuse in marital relationships, or you can say abused women. And this experience of working with traumatized women, women who are victims, inspired her in many ways, and that is how she actually started writing. She did a course on creative writing, and later on she started publishing her own works, poetry, stories. She also published novels, right? And see, the experience that she had with these abused women helped her to frame many of her many of the plots of the stories and novels that she published. And one of the famous poetry collection titled Black Candle, which was published in 1991, deals with the concerns or the issues faced by women not only in India but also in the neighboring countries like Pakistan and Bangladesh. And that particular year, she also formed a non-profit organization called Maitri in the San Francisco Bay Area. And that organization would help these South Asian women, Indian women, Pakistani women, Bangladeshi women, to women who are facing emotional, physical abuse, domestic violence, family conflicts. This organization would help them to kind of tide over that, to find, to look into, to have an introspection into themselves, to find who they really were, to find their worth, right? So this word Maitri is actually a Sanskrit word which means friendship, right? And she I think her stint at Maitri inspired her to write the short story collections titled Arranged Marriages. And this particular work, Arranged Marriages, it's a series of short story, collection of short stories. It won the American Book Award in 1996 because this book especially explains or it deals with the experiences of immigrant Indian women who have this culture shock. They have this, I would say, they are lost or they are torn between their Indian heritage and the American culture. So it's a kind of identity crisis that that they face. And so this particular short story collection, Arranged Marriage, was basically on this, on the culture shock, on the identity crisis that Indian women faced. And in 1997, she published her first novel, The Mistress of Spices, and that was made into a movie. I think some of you might have seen that. It had Aishwarya Rai in the lead role, The Mistress of Spices. And she's also written the novel The Wine of Desire, then the Sister of My Heart, and the Palace of Illusions. That's really interesting. The Palace of Illusions deals with the story of Draupadi from the feminist perspective. Draupadi tells her story. We all know that Draupadi was the wife of the Pandavas, but nobody actually understood the Draupadi from her point of view. So the Palace of Illusions actually speaks about Draupadi's point of view, how she felt, her feelings, her emotions, and all that, right? So these are some of her works, and I think you should read a few of her novels and short stories for you to get an idea of what Divakaruni is actually trying to portray and speak, because she basically deals with immigrant women or women who have migrated to the United States and how they are trying to assimilate into that particular culture and how they face this conflict there between their Indian heritage and also the American culture that they're trying to assimilate. Now we come to this particular story. Mrs. Datta writes a letter. And in this particular story, we see 2 days in the life of Mrs. Datta. So, as I told you earlier, Mrs. Datta is an old widowed Indian woman who lived in Kolkata. But because of the pressure she received at the hands of her relatives, she moved into her son's American home, right? Now, the relatives used to tell her that you're sick, you're old, and especially when she felt sick, they said your son is there, and it is the duty of the mother to stay with the son. So it was, she had to bow down to the pressure of the relatives and move to America. So we see in the first morning when she gets up too early, uh, and she is used to getting up very early because that is the Indian culture. She's used to getting up and very early, saying her prayers, going to the washroom. So when she gets up too early, her son Sagar, his name is Sagar, he comes and tells her that, see, when you get up early and you make all these noises, you move around, you're waking up my wife, Shamoli. Shamoli is his wife, and he says, see, Shamoli is not used to getting up so early. And you should not get up so early because when you get up, you disturb Shamoli, right? So you should get up later. So in this first scene itself, we see how Mrs. Datta's habits, which she had learned as a wife in India, conflict with the American customs of her son's family. Right. So the next morning, what she does is she gets up later as ordered by her son. But now, what happens to her is now she goes to the bathroom, and then her grandchildren come and they start complaining that the grandmother is using the bathroom and they're not getting it. So she needs some time. She's got her own kind of way of doing things. And when the grandchildren speak very rudely up to her and about her, Mrs. Datta is very surprised that her daughter-in-law, Shamoli, does not say anything. And she's very surprised because in India or in Indian culture, no youngster was allowed to speak disrespectfully to the grandparent. And here, when the children speak very disrespectfully to her and about her, she's so shocked that Shamoli does not punish her, right? Because she doesn't understand the American culture. So in America, the children are not taken to task because that is not their culture. They don't scold their children, or they don't punish their children, but that because that could incur them being punished by the law. The law does not allow that. And in India, it's totally different. So we see how this clash of cultures is there, right? So throughout the story, we see Mrs. Datta comparing the American behavior with the Indian customs. And the Indian customs are those customs which she has followed throughout her life, right? And then, when then we see her having reminiscing about her friend in Kolkata, Mrs. Basu, right? Because Mrs. Basu had sent her a letter asking her if she was happy in America. And Mrs. Datta is like, she wants to be very loyal to her son's family, right? And she has been in America for around 2 months now, right? And she wants to be really loyal to her family. She does not want to betray her son and his family, but she wants to, tell her friend that she's not very comfortable in America, right? So it's a struggle. The struggle, Mrs. Datta has got a lot of struggles, right? One struggle is between the Indian culture and the American culture, and the other one is she's torn between being loyal to her son and being true to herself and true about herself, right? So she has not replied to Mrs. Basu's letter because she doesn't know what to say, because she's actually very uncomfortable. She doesn't want to tell that to Mrs. Basu. So, and when she had come to America, she had taken over the kitchen, and she makes all these traditional Indian meals, right? And in her mind, when she cooks, she writes responses to Mrs. Basu saying that, she's just imagining that I'm writing a letter saying that I miss India. But then she says, I should not think like that. I cannot be nostalgic because now this is my home. Right? And she continues cooking. And initially, when she had come and when she had started cooking, Shamoli was very happy that her mother-in-law had taken over the cooking and the kitchen, and she was really happy. But as the days went by, what happened is Shamoli was not very happy because she felt that her mother-in-law was using too much of carbohydrates, too much of oil, and they were all putting on weight, and they were cholesterol levels were increasing. So she was not very happy, and she started showing that, right? So initially she was happy with the traditional Indian meals, but later on she was not very happy. The children were not happy. Only Sagar enjoyed his mother's meals very much, right? And then we see towards the middle of the day, Mrs. Datta washes her clothes, right? She does not like putting her clothes along with everybody's else clothes in the washing machine or in the laundry, right? So she secretly washes her clothes by hand. So Shamoli has warned her that you cannot wash like that. You cannot hang out the clothes on the clothesline because it is not allowed there. It is not nice because people don't agree to that. There, everybody has to do their laundry in the washing machine or in the public laundry place, and you have to kind of your clothes will come out dry. And she's very uncomfortable with the fact that everybody's laundry is done together, and it is her son who folds all the clothes, and especially the underclothes. And she feels very quite uncomfortable when she sees her son doing that, because in India men usually don't fold clothes. That's how it is, and nowadays it has changed, but initially, men never used to fold clothes. So, and especially folding the clothes, especially folding the underclothes and all, was something which Mrs. Datta couldn't even imagine her son doing. And when she sees her son doing that, she feels very uncomfortable. So what she does is she does not put her clothes in the common laundry. She does her own clothes. So that afternoon she washes her clothes and she hangs the clothes on a fence to dry, right? And whenever she does some chores, she's kind of crafting a mental reply to Mrs. Basu. And now she's trying to tell her, okay, I'm fitting very well in America. But she doesn't. She cannot write the letter because she feels that it is not the truth. That's not the truth. But she doesn't want to betray. So she's caught between this kind of conflict. And she remembers the time when she was leaving India, when she had got rid of her house, when she had given away most of her possessions, so she thinks of all those times, because that time Mrs. Basu and everybody had told her, you should not give away your house, you should not sell your house, you should not give away your possessions, because you don't know whether you'll be really happy there. Suppose you want to come back. So she said, no, I'm going to stay with my son. So what is going to happen to me? He's going to take good care of me. He's my son and I have brought him up so well. So she was so happy giving everything away and going to America with nothing left behind in Kolkata. Now, so she when she puts out the clothes to dry, and later on when the clothes are dry, she tries to pull the clothes off the fence, and she notices that the neighbor is looking at her. So she waves to the neighbor, but the neighbor ignores her, right? And when Sagar comes home early that day from work, Mrs. Bus is very happy, and she tells him stories about his childhood, and he enjoys that. But that changes when Shamoli comes home. When Shamoli comes home, Mrs. Datta goes away to her room because she wants to give them some privacy, right? And so she realizes that she has left her unfinished letter to Mrs. Basu on the kitchen table, and she goes to get it. And when she goes to get it, she hears Shamoli and Sagar arguing. Now, the reason was the next door neighbor had complained about Mrs. Datta hanging her clothes on the fence, and it's not done in America. Nobody does that. And Shamoli is like, she tells her husband so many faults about his mother. And Sagar is poor thing, he's caught, right? He says, she's my mother. I can't just kind of send her off. And Shamoli doesn't want her to be there. And she says, even if your mother is staying here, she has to listen to what we say, and she has to stay here. So, Mrs. Datta overhears this conversation, and she feels very sorry for her son, and she feels very bad, and she feels very hurt, right? And although she understands that it is her sense of duty that she has to stay with her outsider. She takes a decision on her own. She knows that there is nothing waiting for her back there. She sold her house, she's given off her things. But she remembers her friend, Mrs. Basu, and she writes a letter to Mrs. Basu saying that she's coming back to India. And she requests Mrs. Basu whether she could rent her downstairs flat to her. So Mrs. Basu has got a flat, and the downstairs flat is free now. So she requests her, can you rent this flat to me? So this is the storyline, or this is the plot, right? So here we see Mrs. Datta, who is a very dutiful Indian widow, right? And
Hello,
she
ma'am.
experiences cultural conflict while she's trying to live with her son in America. Her son's family is very, very Americanized. They have forgotten all their Indian culture, right? They have actually, uh, no, I mean, the roots, which is the grandchildren have no idea about what Indian culture is all about, right? And the son has totally, they've totally assimilated to the American culture, right? And Mrs. Datta thinks about her own life. When she had got married to Sagar's father, it was a very traditional Indian marriage. And she was only 17, right? And she remembers how throughout her life, she had been so very submissive to her husband, to the other family members. She had, suppressed her own desires because she had to fulfill their needs, right? So when she becomes a widow, she lives in her own house for 3 years. Then she gets pneumonia, right? And when she gets pneumonia, her son feels very bad and he says, "You come and live with me now, with my family, because I'm supposed to take care of you." Right? And even the relatives, they keep on breathing down her neck. They pressurize her. A mother's place is with her son. That's what they tell her. And she feels, when she decides to go to America, she feels that she's actually following her Indian duty, because in India the concept is, as a daughter, you are under the shadow of your, or under the protection or shelter of your father. As a young woman or as a wife, you are under the protection of your husband, and as a mother, you're always under the protection of your son. So this is the Indian concept. And when she decides to go to America, she feels that she's following her Indian duty by accepting this invitation of Sagar. And she doesn't even heed to her friend Mrs. Basu's voice. Mrs. Basu tells her, "See, Mrs. Datta, you should not give up your home. Because in case you have to come back, where will you stay? And you should not give away all your things. Let it be here." But she does not listen to that. She sells everything. So it's like, cutting all ties. She wants to have a clean break and start anew. So when she reaches California, she's initially very shocked by the customs of American culture, and all the customs or the American culture, it strongly clashes with the traditional Indian upbringing that she had, right? And throughout the story, we see how she remembers what her life was like in India, and she's always comparing her immigrant experience in America, right? And when she gets Mrs. Basu's letter asking her whether she is in America, she struggles to answer this question in a very positive manner, and she keeps on putting it aside because she knows the truth. The truth is she's not happy, but she does not feel comfortable telling anything bad about her son, right? Because she thinks it would be shameful, and and even she's quite mortified by the fact that Mrs. Basu had told her not to sell her house and not to leave everything and go, right? So it is kind of be shameful to return to India, right? So what she does is she tries to fit into her son's household, and she tries very hard, but there are certain customs which she cannot understand. And her conflict with her daughter-in-law increases because Shyamali is not happy with the way her mother-in-law takes care of the kitchen, because according to Shyamali, you're not supposed to use too much of oil, not no fatty food, and especially Mrs. Datta has this Indian habit of saving leftover food. She it's like, I mean, in India you don't save food, like, because in Hindu belief you are not supposed to save contaminated food, right? So if you eat, and if there is anything left, you throw it away. That's how the Hindu culture is. But in America it's not like that. If there's leftover food, you need to keep it in the fridge and heat it the next day. So Mrs. Datta and Shamoli actually conflict on that. And secondly, Mrs. Datta is not happy with the way her grandchildren behave towards their parents and also towards their grandparents, right? So she says that there is no, like in India, youngsters would never speak rudely to their elders, and here she's so shocked by the way her grandchildren treat her son and her daughter-in-law, and also her. And she's very shocked when Shamoli does not pull them up when they do that, right? And she's very shocked when she sees Shamoli addressing Sagar by his first name, right? And asking him to fold laundry, especially laundry that includes underclothes also, right? But so and so all these things actually shock her, and she is like terrified of the washing machine, so she goes to hand wash. And when she hand washes her clothes and she puts it out, the neighbor sees her drying the clothes, and all this becomes a problem, and there is a fight between Sagar and his wife, right? And Mrs. Datta, when she overhears this argument, she realizes that if she is in America, she would have to succumb to all the cultural practices of America, which would make her unhappy in the long run, right? And she understood that she would have to, bear with whatever American culture her son and his family had assimilated. So she realizes that she's not happy, and she decides that she has to put her own needs before her family duty. And that is why she writes a letter to Mrs. Basu, telling her that she would return. So she swallows her shame, she swallows her pride, and she tells that I want to come back. And she requests her friend to rent her the downstairs apartment. So when we analyze the character of Sagar, that is Mrs. Datta's son, uh, we understand that he was a person who was born in India, and he married Shamoli through a traditional arranged marriage. But after moving to America, he has assimilated most aspects of American culture, right? He tries to be a very dutiful Indian son, but he is in and out American. So what happens is, like, when Mrs. Datta gets sick with pneumonia, he encourages her, he motivates her to move in with him and his family in California, right? So that is because he's a very dutiful son. And when his mother comes, Sagar tries to make a very peaceful transition to the American life that she would have to get used to. But and we see how Sagar is still interested in various aspects of his Indian heritage. He loves his mother's cooking. He appreciates hearing humorous stories about his childhood, and he likes all that. He's not like his wife, and but he tries to, at the same time, he tries to train his mother in various American customs, like how to use a washing machine. But he's not very successful in that. But he does not confront his mother on many issues that Shamali has with her, right? And that actually leads to a lot of friction between Sagar and Shamali. And when Mrs. Datta's Indian behavior, that is the aspect of putting out clothes on the fence, draws negative attention from a neighbor, Shamoli and Sagar have an argument, right? And they resolve their conflict. But Sagar does not understand that his mother has overheard the argument and has decided to return to India. So Sagar, he tries to support his mother, but then for him, his wife is also important. So he is actually caught between the two women. And Shamoli is a woman, is Mrs. Datta's daughter-in-law, was born in India, and she also moved to America with him, but she totally assimilates the American culture, not like Sagar. Sagar has got some remnants of Indian culture still within him, but Shamoli totally assimilates the Indian culture, right? And she is like, she when Mrs. Datta comes, like Shamoli is a very fair-skinned woman, and now she almost looks like an American because she's dressed that way. Everything, she passes for an American. And Shamoli is not like Sagar. She has no interest in revisiting her Indian heritage. And initially, though she appreciates her mother-in-law's cooking, later on, after a few days, she says she's not interested because such cooking is very unhealthy for them. And she's like, very uh, uh, typical American, kissing her husband in public, calling him by her first name, asking him to do all kinds of chores around the house. These are all American customs and non traditional behavior in India that shocks Mrs. Datta. right? And Shamoli is now known as Molly. That is the Americanized name that she has taken, and that is how her neighbors call her. And she's very anxious to please her neighbors, right? Because she does not want the neighbors to look at them as some uncultured. Indian family, right? So when she's really afraid and she's really angry when Mrs. Datta dries the clothes by hanging them over the fence, and she doesn't want to disappoint the neighbors, and this actually sparks an argument between Shamoli and Sagar, which Mrs. Datta overhears and which actually makes her decide to leave America and come back to India. So this is basically about the plot and about the characters. And we also have the grandchildren of Mrs. Datta, Mrinalini and Pradeep, right? They have got Indian names, but they are not at all interested in exploring their Indian heritage. And Mrinalini is the actual name of Mrs. Datta's granddaughter, but Shamuli calls her Mini because this is another sign of her assimilation into Indian culture. And Pradeep is called Pat, right? So both of them, Mrinalini and Pradeep, both of them are not interested in revisiting or in exploring their Indian heritage or Indian culture. They have taken in American names, so they have their nicknames Minnie and Pat, not Mrinalini and Pradeep. They're not called that way. They're called Minnie and Pat because their mother has assimilated into the American culture. And we also have Mrs. Basu or Mrs. Roma Basu, who is Mrs. Basu's longtime friend, right, and her neighbor in India, in Kolkata. And it is Mrs. Basu's letter which actually prompts Mrs. Datta to take a deep introspection to examine whether she is really happy or not. Right, and ultimately it is Mrs. Basu who comes to Mrs. Datta's assistance or help in the towards the end of the story, because Mrs. Basu's apartment had been vacated recently, and now Mrs. Datta requests her friend whether she can stay there. So that is how we see, ultimately she comes back to her Indian roots, or to her to the place which was actually home to her, Kolkata. So that is basically the plot of the story, and brief overview about the characters. We'll discuss this more about this in the next class. Any questions?